research, and that's what research says. These companies are great at customer experiences. So what is it that these companies are doing that others aren't doing? What makes them great at customer experiences? Well, first of all, for most of these companies, customer experience did not happen through an accident. It did not happen by chance or through journey mapping alone. Okay, that is not the way how these guys got there. So quick question, McDonald's, what do they sell? Right? Burgers, fast food? No, not really, actually. Okay, because if you compare McDonald's to, say, Burger King, right? The Burger King had an interesting ad where they compared Whopper with the Big Mac. The Big Mac is not the biggest burger. McDonald's does not sell the tastiest, fast food. I've never heard of them winning a taste test of any kind. A lot of you will say, well, it is fast food and it's about burgers. Those are two key things that McDonald's does. But let's consider the example of McDonald's going to India. In India, they don't eat cows. They worship cows as a god. So how can McDonald's, who sells burgers, go to India? Now, interestingly, when the first McDonald's opened up in India, there's something very interesting that happened. People had to wait in line for hours before they could go in to a restaurant which predominantly sells hamburgers, which is against their religion, to go in and buy a burger. The burger was not a hamburger; it was a veggie burger. So it was made out of potatoes and beans and other things. The burger was made by Indians. It was made using ingredients that were made in India. The store was made in, the shop was made in India. The restaurant was made in India. So everything was Indian. What is it that the Indian people were waiting in line to go and buy? They were waiting in line not to go buy the fast food. They were waiting in line to go buy the experience of the American way of life. That's what McDonald's sells. McDonald's does not sell burgers. McDonald's does not sell fries. McDonald's doesn't sell anything else. McDonald's sells this notion of this American way of life, which is about freedom and democracy and all these other things. Similarly, McDonald's had a similar story when they went to the USSR, former USSR. People waited in line for 3 days to go in and buy a burger. Probably, they had better burger shops around the corner, but they were waiting to buy into that experience of this Americana about freedom and liberty and democracy and so on and so forth. Consequently, because McDonald's is not selling burgers, you can look at the market share in the fast food industry. They have about 33% of the fast food. KFC.
And you cannot have a beef burger. As an organization, society you operate, the customs and their ideas and what they believe should be evident in your products, your services, and your customer experience. In Nigeria, for example, English is an official language, but we have 3 main languages. Depending on the call, I'll speak to Debbie, I think it was day before yesterday, and she was telling me that depending on which organization you call, you actually have the option to speak in any of your local languages in Nigeria. And that improves the experience you give to your customer. There is another, a small company I would like to use as an example called Musa's Blankets. It's a family-owned business here in South Africa. They've been around for about 34 years. Owner, originally from Pakistan, set up a blanket store in the middle of town in Johannesburg. And from where they came from in Pakistan, they believe that pregnant women and older people should have they accord a certain type of respect for pregnant women and older people. So when you go to their store, there's actually a separate entrance for pregnant women and a separate entrance for older people. They have taken their culture, what they believe in, and they've built it into their process. Now that you've established the culture that you want to support the type of experience you want, we come to recruitment. You need to recruit the right people to drive the type of culture we want.
Il est donc indispensable de penser que la vie personnelle,
Okay.
la jonction, quant à elle, montre le monde de vérité.
The-
Cette jonction-là,
So the junction actually shows the timing of truth.
il est donc impensable de penser
It is therefore impossible to think
que la vie personnelle
that a personal life
n'a pas d'impact
has no impact
sur la vie
on
professionnelle
the professional life
et en somme sur l'expérience
and
collaborateur.
overall on the client, on the employee experience.
Selon le titre que Tech Group nous présente,
Courting Simon,
selon l'étude de Tech Group,
according to a study by Techling Group,
l'expérience client est largement meilleure dans les entreprises
the client experience is actually better in companies
où l'engagement collaborateur est supérieur à 60%.
where its commitment is greater than 60%.
Et il y a aussi Simon Sinek qui le dit,
Courting Simon Sinek,
conférencier et auteur du livre sur le management et la
who's
motivation.
a writer, the keynote speaker on management motivation.
Les clients n'aimeront pas une entreprise
The customer will not like a company
si les employés ne l'aiment pas d'abord.
if the employee don't like it first.
Il est nécessaire de fidéliser ses employés
It's also important to keep his employee
au même titre que ses clients,
at the same level as its customers,
car le mal-être des collaborateurs
because a discomfort or ill feeling of the employee
pourrait avoir des conséquences fâcheuses sur le chiffre d'affaires.
can greatly damage company sales revenues.
Des collaborateurs qui apprécient leur travail,
Employees who like their work,
se sentent compris,
who feel understood,
considérés et surtout valorisés,
considered and valued,
représentent un potentiel de compétitivité
represent a competitive advantage as well.
d'autant plus important. La symétrie des attentions,
Okay. Uh,
Inside out. So before we rush off and start thinking about what should our new service journeys look like, or what should the features be, what journey should we plan that to be, what should the behaviours be of our employees, we have this outside-in point of view of our customers, who they are, what they value, their beliefs and their expectations, but fundamentally also what are their needs. So needs on a very situational level, very practical level, I guess. If you're not satisfying them, you're never going to deliver great service and keep your customers long term. But also their situational needs that are perhaps driven by other things like their attitudes. And then the inside out stuff, getting my inside and my outside's the wrong way around. As I said, you know, how do you take the meaning of the brand and the service proposition to create something different from your competition? So you need a toolkit basically, and the next 5 minutes or so I'm just going to share some of the tools that I use with you. So for customers, you can create personas that become the representation of the audience. You can craft customer stories that help to articulate exactly what that customer needs to do, but it's not one-dimensional and just loading needs. It's written from the perspective of the customer and how they feel about things too. Again, might be changeable depending on their attitudes towards things and their own behaviours. I share with you this thing called a proposition wheel, which I think is like an incredible tool to bring the brand to life, and also show you how to do journey mapping right, as opposed to not right. So here we are with the personas.
Thing you need to drive it, and you need that awareness that you have so much on your side to drive this. So your purpose needs to be clear, your objectives need to be laid out clear, and please don't let anyone define you. If you are in CX, CX is aiming at the heart of the organization. No one should define you by a touch point, by a channel, by the contact center or the shops. You need to create and understand that you have a bigger role to play. So I'll come to our approach. And Debbie is my witness. I mean, this was planned from the beginning. It wasn't as if it was picked from what was said. So I'm excited that we are all kind of agreeing on a number of points. We need to focus on our touch points. And this is so powerful because I do not know of any function in the organization that owns the touch points to the extent that we own the touch points. Your security guards are a touch point. Your driveway is a touch point. Your doors, your stores, for those of us who are still running physical brick and mortar interfaces, your doors are a touch point. Your counters are a touch point. The glass door is a touch point. So you have so many things to play with. You have so much power. Actually, you have such a foothold in the organization that if anyone knew, they would run for their lives. And that's how powerful you are. And that's how far you can be embedded. So think how much power you have in the touch points. And Claire gave us a warning. We are not saying go grab one, both Claire and Dr. Hans said, we are not going to grab one touch point and go place that touch point and make it so amazing that it doesn't serve any purpose but just being amazing. No. But focus on the potential that your touch points have and leverage this potential for experience. The other thing which we tend to shy away from, which I want to bring to our attention, is that we have some power in sales. And this is because we are building relationships. We are not mercenary salesmen. We are not just chasing commissions, but because we are building relationships, we have such an opportunity that we cannot take for granted. We have such an opportunity to demonstrate our value as we engage with our customer base. I believe yesterday in the demo session, there was someone who was asking this, and there is a place we can use to demonstrate our value, even when it comes to sales and generating revenue. The other thing, like I mentioned in my definition, is that you have the power to facilitate usage. Facilitate usage again and drive positive word of mouth. You need to start thinking in terms of return on investment. For too long, and this is my experience of customer experience here in Ghana and probably in parts of West Africa, we need to start thinking how we would demonstrate top line.
Paradox of choice. When you go into a store and you have an option of A and B, it's always easy, right? It's either A or it's B. You choose one. Your shopping experience is simple, it's quick, you're out of there. But going to a store and have a choice of 10 items, you spend more time, and more often than not, whatever choice you make, you would always have that nagging feeling at the back of your head that did I make the right choice? That maybe the other one was probably the better one. So in designing products, right, I think that there's a lot of study that's been done around the paradox of choice, because as humans, the reality is when you have too many choices, it doesn't give you more satisfaction or a semblance of freedom. It actually increases your level of anxiety and frustration. So there's a balance between, what am I offering this customer on this platform? What kind of choices are we offering them? It makes sense to give an unlimited, well, the first impulse is to say, look, you know what, they can have anything they want. We have 250 varieties of this particular item. But, the honest truth is there's a balance that needs to be struck, right, to reduce the amount of anxiety that the customer would typically go through.
Experience. Now, I've got 4 stages in which companies can create unique brand experiences. So the first one is listen. And this has been spoken about from Dr. Khan up until the very last speaker. Every single one of them has alluded and actually spoke about the importance of listening. Now, the reason why companies need to listen, you cannot go into a relationship, you cannot create an experience for someone where you have not listened. Now, ways in which companies do that is through, some companies would run surveys. I mean, we have one of the partners of this summit today, which is Survey Connect. So that's one way of listening to customers. Companies would run surveys And the company has to define a strategy that is going to determine how often do we do that, and why are we listening? What do you want to hear? And at the same time, I think it was Oyodeji that spoke about engaging with employees, trying to get feedback from them on how things can be done better. Now that is also good, but at the same time, a lot of companies that spend too much time in getting feedback from people could end up imploding from the weight of the data that is sitting with them. At some point in time, there has to be a strategy that informs the way in which, how the frequency of listening and how it's going to be done. And then what happens, what insights are you getting from that? Because at the end of the day, one listens in order to implement and to do something. You don't just get information from customers and there's no intention to use them. So companies would run also voice of customer programs, voice of the employee programs, because in those programs, you're really capturing feedback, you really are creating a...
Maybe everybody is
right.
tired.
Everyone's attention.
So what we have recently experienced with the coronavirus has disturbed all conventional daily lives, both personally and at a business level. And this has reshuffled the cards. So I propose to do my intervention on 2 points. The necessary development of new communication channel and telephone and human contact, which remain essential to consumer relations. But firstly, I have a small clarification of definition between multi-channel and omni-channel. Indeed, multi-channel means you can use different channels, for example, voice, email, chat. The channels are managed independently. Omni-channel means we allow the consumer to use his preferred method of communication with a 360 degrees vision to give him a seamless experience and an increased consumer satisfaction. So, so I think it's important to have definitions, because sometimes we talk about omni-channel or multi-channel and it's a little bit confused. So the necessary development of new communication channels, you know, most physical stores were closed during the coronavirus pandemic. Companies have developed their online presence and multiple digital points of contact to maintain sales and relationships with their consumer. The key point is that brands have to adapt to consumer behavior, which is now totally digital. They can no longer remain with the communication channel via the phone only. They must also introduce new channels such as live web, chat, social network to interact with their consumer to maintain the relationships. Also, chatbots to deal with the peak calls during the COVID, or simply offer 24/7 self-service in order to improve customer satisfaction. Studies have revealed that 9 out of 10 consumers want an omni-channel experience with a seamless service between communication methods, and 63% of consumers are satisfied getting service with a chatbot, as long as they have the option to move the conversation to a human if and when they need. So consumers today are omni-channel. They can start a consumer journey on the website, make a request via a web for, or start a first contact with a chatbot or via chat for question. But to solve a problem, they will first reach out by WhatsApp or SMS, and then by phone if they need to speak to an agent for a more complex issue. For example, in the case of retail, customer order online and have the goods delivered to their address of choice with the option of booking the delivery time, and can also receive a confirmation of delivery by SMS. So diversifying consumer contact channels today and with the experience is priority. But telephone and human contact, which remain essential to consumer relations. However, it remains clear that we'll not go to 100% digital. The phone remains an important channel of communication between consumer and brands. We saw during the COVID period that the contact center became the only link between brands and their consumer after the closure of store or physical agency. The use of chatbots has exploded to offer more self-service, but they can manage only simple or repetitive queries. When it comes to managing complex issues or dealing with emotions, we talk a lot emotion today, but when we have an emotion, digital channel, artificial intelligence, and automation are not able to replace the human approach. Phone remains most consumer favorites and the most used channel, and the human touch will remain key to the customer experience. Companies should offer a set of voice and digital channel to touch customer and their channel of preference to increase customer satisfaction. So today,